Working?
Yeah, it's working. There. Okay. Hi. Joining me in studio today it's Sari from Finland, but she's sitting in Indonesia, and she is the head of Ocean Eye, where sightseeing, um, turning. Sorry, Sari. Hello. Welcome to the Webmakers podcast. Joining me in studio today it's Sari. She is from Finland, but she's sitting in Indonesia. She's the head of Ocean Eye, where marine life sightseeing it's turned into donations to support communities. Hi, Sari. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
How are you?
Super happy to be here.
Um, we would be very happy to hear, like kind of an elevator pitch, who you are, what you do, and why do you do it?
Sure. So I'm Sari. I'm a marine biologist from Finland, but I have been working globally in marine conservation for 25 years now. And I'm currently based in Indonesia, where I was inspired by the problem where there's a lot of charismatic marine life, but the coastal communities have to keep hunting and killing them to make a livelihood. And these animals don't have value on their own unless they are dead and sold at the market. And I wanted to reverse this. So I created Ocean Eye, which is the world's first, we call it the ecosystem service payment platform, but simply put, it is technology used by marine tourists. So when you go diving, whale watching, sailing, just exploring the ocean that we love, you would record the favorite animals that you see. And then you collect citizen science, which is very useful for management of the oceans and science. But then you also get an invoice from us where you pay a small price for each sighting that you have. So 10 cents, 20 cents, $5 for a manta ray, or like much more for a blue whale or some amazing experience. And then we transfer that money to the coastal community. So now, for the first time, they can get paid from just people seeing these animals over and over and over again, creating a strong incentive to start protecting these animals, and creating a win-win for the tourism industry, the tourists, and the coastal community. So that's
Nice.
what Ocean Eye does.
Yeah, I love it. And when was that you decided to do this? Like, what happened, or what did you see that suddenly you say, I need to make a difference? What, when was this, and how this happened?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been working in marine conservation for 25 years, but I've been living in Indonesia for the last 11 years. And I had a consultancy company here where we worked on quite a lot of like incentives for coastal communities. So there would be a marine
Mm,
protected areas, and we tried to figure out like how do we incentivize and reward the community for having this protected area so that they would also support the objectives and the rules and regulations of this area. And it turned out to be quite difficult because um, that in a very remote community, your livelihood is the fishing, and if there is new protections in place and you can't do that, it's a problematic situation. So I get like running into this problem that we don't have a viable solution for these coastal communities to really come on board with all these grand objectives that we have globally, 30 by 30 marine protected
mm,
areas and all these big global commitments, but like how are we going to do it on the ground? So I kept running into this problem, and then I participated in a hackathon, in a
yeah.
marine conservation congress in Malaysia in
Mhm.
2018, where one of their subjects was how to make MPAs effective, and that's kind of where when I was under pressure having to present something to 600 of my colleagues in 3 days' time, I then came up with the idea of Ocean Eye, and
Yeah.
we ended up winning some prize money. And then at that point, I kind of felt like, okay, like this is actually something that I want to make happen because I really see a big need for it. And I can see how it could mobilize a whole another sector to help protect the ocean, the tourism sector, which is not very involved yet, put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, and this is a big leap, and it's getting a little bit more common that scientists do that jump from maybe research and kind of being researching instead of maybe thinking becoming entrepreneurs and having their own business. Was someone who pushed you forward, or how was your transition that you kind of got convinced that this is the next step for me?
Yeah, I guess like what I really missed was having my own project
Mm.
and like being able to go on that creative kind of a excuse me, journey of like seeing where it evolves and how I can make impact with it. So I was working as a consultant for 10 years, and it's obviously, very interesting, and you get to do a lot of interesting projects and clients, but you always have to let go of the projects. So then at some
Mm.
point, you have the conversation with yourself, like, is this really the best I can do for this planet? Like is me writing reports to other people the ultimate it, or can I like participate to the process with something new that no one else has done before? And then I thought, like, okay, like I really feel that this is what I want to bring forth next. Yeah.
Yeah. And you put together a team, or how was, or you work with a community when you do one of the projects, like in a specific fishing town, or how does it work when you decide um, a location and then people working around? Can you take us through the process of
Yeah.
one project?
Yeah, so basically we identify biodiversity rich marine areas. So not just areas where you have mass tourism, but where people seek out very specific species or experiences. So for example, here in Indonesia, we have a lot of choice, but
Mm.
there's, for example, areas where you get blue whale migration and hammerhead migration and orcas and all of the coral reef life. So it's a very globally significant marine hotspot. So then we would approach that area and work with the local stakeholders and communities. So, for example, we have one of our first project sites here is Pandanera, which is in the middle of Indonesia.
Mm.
And there's already NGOs who have been working there in marine conservation. There's a local university and there's local community groups, etc. So we would then set it up and consult them. To date, we've done 3 different consultations explaining our project, and then like finding what the community would want to achieve if they have a finance mechanism that could help support them to achieve it. So, for example, on this island, they then decided that they have a plastic waste problem. It's a small
Mm.
island. They have a lot of modern consumer goods coming in, but they don't have a way of disposing it. It ends up in the ocean and it's harming all the biodiversity that is there, the whales, the turtles, the reefs. So this community agreed that the donations from Ocean Eye can help support set up the waste management system on the island. So then
Mm.
we work with a local partner who can do that, and we transfer the funds to them, and we kind of become the finance mechanism. So we're not there to go and do the work. We are there to listen what the community wants, what they see as valuable, and then we'll set it up so that we then work with the tourism industry and get
Yeah.
them on board in introducing Ocean Eye to their guests and implementing it, and then financing these local projects. So that's
Yeah, it is a very clever way of circular economy, that, and you
yeah,
have the data that, as a scientist, I guess you still, it's very close to your heart, but you also have the financial kind of incentive for
yeah,
for you and for the community to see the value on this project and support it, and see that it's more, it's worth more to protect um, turtles, for example, than to sell it
yeah.
in the market, or and that's kind of creates a sense of responsibility, I guess, or ownership. And I think it's brilliant. When I started reading about it, it's like it's a full circle that
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think because everybody wins. Like we're not. like telling the fishermen that you can't go fish. We're not telling them that, your livelihoods are over. We are just encouraging them to focus on other species that are not so endangered.
Yes.
And, like, for example, in this location that we're working on, they still bomb in the reef, which is obviously a very bad practice. So it's kind of giving them an alternative. It's like you can earn income from people seeing these animals over and over and over again. And the more animals there are, so if the population increases, then you will earn even more money for your projects. And if you take them all out, well, then there's no more income. So it's
Yeah.
kind of very easy, kind of, economics and money talks. And like if you kill a shark in Indonesia and you sell the fins, you might get like $40 for it. Okay, they pay a lot more for it in Hong Kong, but like the local fishermen, that's what it gets here. So if people see that shark for $1 20,000 times, which is totally possible, like they have made quite a lot more money, so they probably
Yeah.
want to keep it alive. Yeah.
And also what it's very interesting is this sense of sustainable tourism. Everybody talks about sustainable tourism,
Yeah.
but we go to the ocean often in the summer, right? We all love to enjoy a place in the sun, and we all see beautiful things, but the connection of taking care of whatever you're looking at, that you have a contribution to care for it. I think
Yeah.
it's beautiful. And what you were saying as well, it's kind of a reciprocity. It's like it's a give and take, and it's a new pattern. It's a new way to be a tourist, and also as a community to receive tourists. What has been your experience with, you're changing maybe a little bit an industry there, maybe the fishing industry and the tourism industry and maybe more other industries. How has been that adventure for you?
Yeah, well, it's been it's been a very big adventure, of course. I didn't really know the tourism industry very well. I've obviously been a tourist myself, but and I kind of understand coastal communities. I understand conservation. I understand fishing very well, so I can like understand how to build a strategy around the outcomes and how we can use our data and all of that. It's not like a big shock, but then I think working with the tourism industry has been very interesting because it's still in a very early stages of taking responsibility. Like everybody talks about sustainable tourism, but nobody's really doing it. And then we want to take it a step further, which is regenerative tourism, is that you actually leave the place better than it was. You don't just like not throw rubbish in the sea or, you know, turn off your AC while you're not in the room, but you're actually participating in the story of how we saved the ocean and how we supported the community. And it is a leap, but I think it's one that has to happen. And we are providing a tool for the tourism industry to do that. Yeah.
And the tool is an app, so I can download an app in my phone when I'm on holiday. And or how does that work?
Yeah, so at the moment it's a browser-based app, and we have a whole we've been using it for about just over a year now. So we have a whole list of improvements and like suggestions and gifts and incentives that we want to and AI we want to introduce for the user, and then we want to turn it into an actual app because it's easier to use or when you outside of internet connection as well, which a lot of people do when they're at sea. So at the moment, it's a browser-based app, but we're turning it into an actual app at the App Store. Yeah.
And it's about what you see, right? It's about observation. So if you see a
Yeah.
dolphin or if you see a whale, you just click, and
Yeah.
each animal has a value. Or how does it work to allocate, a donation to each species? Or how is that structure?
Yeah. So basically, for the areas where we work, so because we set up the project first where the funds go to, then we also kind of work with people to know what are the important species in that area that we want data
Mm,
about. And
mm,
then we add species that the fishermen really love to take, and then we add the species that the tourists really love. So then we have like a selection of like say 10 to 20 species depending that we ask people to report on, and then they can obviously add something else if they see something outside of that list. But we kind of already make a priority list that these are the ones that we want data on. And then we can adjust the price according to the type of tourists that go there. So if it's a very high-end place, we can hike them up a bit. And then if it's say like a little bit more of a backpacking destination or like low-end destination, then we can make the suggested prices a little bit lower, so the operator can like adjust them. And then when people report what they see, they just keep doing that, and the algorithm will give you the suggested price. But when it comes to checkout, you can still adjust the total amount. So you can, if your algorithm says, okay, you saw 3 turtles, 2 sharks, 5 parrotfish, and a lobster, and that's $25, please, and you really love the local project, you can give them $100. Or if you go like, actually, my Visa card's kind of maxed out at the end of my holiday, I can only do $10, you can like bring it back to $10. So we give the suggested price, but we obviously don't want anybody to be upset that they saw 1,000 hammerhead sharks or something completely crazy, and then they like get a massive bill and they want to submit data. Yeah, that they want to submit data because it was so amazing, but then it will cost them too much money. So there's a way
to balance it. And do you set up a time frame, or is like for anyone who visits, or do you talk with the community and say, when are we going to achieve this objective, and with time?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really make promises for the community as such, because we don't know how quickly the tourism industry we can adopt, like how much people will give. Like it's obviously kind of takes time to build it up and get awareness and also like credibility to get that going. So we just say that we will send you the funds every 3 months, as long as we have them. And then if it's like a lot of places have like a low season that nobody's coming, and then like we'll let them know. So, but we don't want them to become like immediately dependent on our funding alone, and then we'll start building it up, because it's slim.
So it's straightforward from the beginning, and also transparent, I guess, because the tourists can see it, you can see it, and the community can access as well, right? They can see track how many
they have their own portal. Every community has their own portal where they can see like what animals are being seen, how much money it's earning, and they can also see what nationalities are giving the most money. This is what they wanted to see when we asked them, like, what do you want in this portal? So they get a rank of like the nationalities that are visiting their area. Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah. And in terms of your challenges, as you were saying, like you were stepping into the into the tourism industry, what has been the hardest thing that you kind of face a wall setting up Ocean Eye?
I think because we are set up as a company, and our model relies on actually giving 80% of the money that we make away, and we keep 20% for our own platform fees and costs and everything. So I'm actually finding it that the investors are like completely like baffled by this, because they can see all these numbers of like, we're going to be generating $10 million a year in 5 years and like all of these projections, but then they realize that this is actually money that is going to the community.
Yes.
And this is the purpose. And like, obviously we will also create returns of investment, but they are a lot more moderate because we have such high biodiversity and community impact. And I know there's a lot of talk about sustainable investing and blue economy and all of this, but it still doesn't kind of totally, value the impact that we deliver. So I'm having a hard time explaining my business model and getting investors on board. Like I definitely feel like I'm like leading the charge on regenerative blue economy and how we actually going to turn things around.
Because it's a long term, for a long term. It's also almost like educating people about doing something different. So it's kind of changing perspective completely. And it might be for you patience for the capital, that it's invested. It will take longer maybe, but
Exactly.
the
It's like
effects.
it's catalytic. It will take time, but then like, this is like we're doing a regime change in the way people travel and see the world
Mm,
and how tourism industry contributes. So
yeah.
yeah. And I don't think we have another way. So we're gonna have to
No,
keep going.
agree.
Yeah.
Agree. And we thought,
It's like
I think for
yeah.
us at the Ocean Opportunity Lab, this is a fantastic example that it's possible, and maybe as well to invite some other founders to support your cause, and create partnerships and alliances, and learn from this model,
Yeah.
from your steps, and maybe people who can support you as well. And that leads me to my next question. Like, if you had a request, like, what is your bold ask that you really, really need today? How can the community tool support you?
Yeah, I mean, what I need at the moment is to really like upgrade the technology to be really attractive. We want to have like AI species identification, which also gives people information back, like about the species and how lucky you were to see it in this location and what it's doing during this season that you saw it. And like, we can make it so much more fun for people to interact with. And we also want to give them a gift so that when they donate, they get a reel of like everything they saw and where it went and what projects it went, and then they can share that on social media and like like talk about like having impact and then create waves. So I really need like yeah, somebody who could help me get the technology there, who's like really good with AI and would have the capacity to come in and help with that. Yeah, and that would really take us to next days, because then we would have a product that it's very hip and fun. And
Mm,
yeah, we have all the user feedback already, so we can just get it done.
mm. And with regards what you can offer to the community, what you, Sari, or Ocean Eye could offer to the community, what do you
Yeah,
think?
I mean, there's so much to offer, like all these amazing locations and
Mm,
coastlines and small islands and marine life that and the communities that we work with. Like once we scale globally, like it's going to be so interesting for storytelling, for for innovation, for really like tying up like a global project. So like anybody who wants to get involved, I think there's a lot of adventures to be
yeah,
had in like
yeah.
setting this all up and getting it going, and like what could be more exciting. Yeah.
And if there's also like maybe communities or um, governments that listen to these, or conservation efforts that would like to bring Ocean Eye to a different country, or different locations, what are the requirements for them to to have this? What do they need? What are the starting points for them to use this?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and that's really how we want to scale to other regions, is to find partners who already work with the communities and their marine protected
Mm,
areas, trying to make that work, and we can come in as the financial mechanism to provide the
mm,
funds for the community projects and the incentives, etc. So we can like easily scale it to other areas. So all we need to do is like get in touch with me. We set up a Yeah, and we set up a call to explore like what does the tourism look like there, what does the biodiversity look like, what do the communities look like, and like how we could go design it. And yeah, I'm having a call with somebody from the coastline of Pakistan tomorrow,
yeah.
who's like interested in setting up Ocean Eye there, which like I don't know anything about this region, and I'm just like fascinated, like what do they have there? But like they're trying to support the communities through tourism. So like we can go anywhere where there's marine biodiversity and coastal communities. Yeah.
Perfect. And it doesn't need to be like private or public, like government or companies. It could be any
Yeah.
entity that it's just interested in. in having a
Yeah,
high.
exactly. Yeah, so exactly. So the whole idea about Ocean Eye was that we can scale through the private sector. So like a hotel chain can approach us and say like, right, we want to implement this across our island resorts so we can have impact. And we can do that, or it can be even like a cruise company or a dive school chain, or just an individual who has a business and they struggling with these issues in their local environment, that the species are getting taken out and the environment is not supported and the communities are not getting support. So we can offer a tool for the private sector to start taking action. And obviously, like, we're very happy to work with NGOs and governments and official MPA bodies and others who might want to like bring us in more officially. So like, we're very flexible. We can work with any stakeholders that see value in this. Yeah.
I find it so. The request for you mainly could be the technology, but also a call for maybe as well tourism agencies or travel agencies or companies. Like, I think about the Mexican coast and how many community we still have a lot of communities there that that could be, and they're quite well organized.
Yeah.
I don't know what has been that's something that I would love to know with regards dealing with the communities, how it has been your experience, good and bad, with them. What have you learned from the local people?
Yeah. I mean, you really like have to listen, like what is it that they actually see valuable in terms of receiving the funds for. And like where we are operating at the moment, like it's not a good idea just to give the money to like a person in the community. Like we try and find like an existing project that the money can go into, so it doesn't cause like questioning by the other community members, like what's going to happen with the money. And then we just end up living under a lot of suspicion. So it's kind of important to understand from them, like, okay, what has worked well when you received money before? How was it handled? Like what structure made you like trust that the money was well spent? And like how we're gonna like follow that so that we don't, normally there's already good examples that we can just then copy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And we don't
in
also
your
don't
journey,
Yeah, sorry.
sorry,
Now
go
we
ahead.
also don't want to cause like jealousy between different communities. So there's also like communication issues, because if one area has a lot of tourists and they start receiving income, like maybe another area doesn't have tourists but they still fish in there, and like then we need to like also try and solve this, like how can the others benefit a little bit so that they don't feel like they just got like left out. And yeah.
And do
Yeah.
you need to be in the place as the head of Ocean Eye to keep an eye on the project, or is quite in I was going to say Norwegian selvstendig, and it could run on its own.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because we want to scale globally, like obviously, like, once we have like 1,000 projects, like, like I'm not going to be, I'm
No.
not going to be, I'm not going to be monitoring them. So what we're doing is we're setting up a complaints procedure from the village or the community. So anybody can like say like, oh, this money hasn't spent the way it was supposed to. And then we can stop the flow of funds and investigate. But then we also have these local, what we have done every time so far is that we make an MOU with the local NGO or a group or someone who's already working with that community and who can already help keep an eye on things for us. And it's best because they're normally local, they already work with the community, they already have trust, and they can like, and if they kind of tell us what issues there are, what's happening, then we can like together think about like, okay, like we can change this, we can change that. So it's better to like empower all the local players to be part of the project than like,
Yeah,
how am I
I
going to
like that.
understand? Well, how am I going to understand, what goes on some small island somewhere anyway? Like, they're not
Yeah,
gonna,
yeah.
like it's not
Because it's
possible.
data, but it's also human, It's this
Yeah.
how the society operates. It changes from one geographic area to another, and size and way they do things. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's maybe a
Yeah.
challenge.
But like for example, in the Komodo National Park in Indonesia, we found like a local waste project, like a local school
Mm.
project, and a local science project that were already
Mm.
working with the communities, that were already engaged in them, and then we can just give funds to them
Mm.
because then they can do more, they can elevate their project, they can help the community more. So then, we just need to check that the money's been spent as we agreed, and they deal with whatever's happening with the
Yeah.
community. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in your journey setting up your company and moving away from home and dealing with this life purpose for you, and um, what has been the biggest challenge personally, or if you can share maybe some hacks when you face certain um, difficulties. How do you deal with stress? How do you keep positive and encouraging the people? Like, how do you keep going?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a very important question, and like what I do is I try and spend as much time in nature as I can myself
Mm.
because I do feel like it is the teacher and the guide and the one that like takes away my stress.
Mm.
And yeah, and then to stay focused on the mission and like really feel it that this is important, and it is my job then mother nature to get this done, and then that helps you kind of get over the stress and the insecurities, and it's obviously difficult when funding timelines are short and they're ending, and you have to take care of your staff and yourself and others, and keep that
Mm.
flowing, the things that every founder has to deal with. But yeah, I find just having, yeah, just being very clear on your focus and why you're doing it, and then you get the strength to get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we take nature for granted, and
Yeah,
the ocean as well, but at the end it's a privilege to
exactly.
to be born in this world, and in this part of the world, in Norway, for example. Like, obviously I treasure um, much more the sea in Mexico, for example, and jumping waves. And here in Norway is just going to the mountains and swimming in the cold waters, and those are things that are really, it reconnects you with kind of essence, and it's not that
Yeah,
difficult. And I think we
yeah,
have forgotten that as humans, like how simple life can be
yeah,
just by
yeah,
taking care
yeah,
of nature.
yeah. And that's a really big kind of driving concept of Ocean Eye, is to really bring back people back into the reciprocity with
Mm.
nature. It's like it is not just your backdrop for your photos. It has needs, it needs respect, it needs engagement. Like, humans should be part of the story of what happens in the ocean, that is also positive and not just in a negative way. So we have to change our entire relationship if we want to have a living planet. So,
Mm.
and this is something that indigenous cultures always knew, that you can't just take, you also have to give, and we have to find that relationship again. Yeah.
Have you considered, just now thinking out loud, schools? Like, sometimes children are great teachers, and you know um, promoters of this kind of thing, that they could use the app and kind of push from a different angle. Is there any plans or idea on having
Yeah,
schools involved?
I'm looking at scaling Ocean Eye in Finland and the Baltic next, although it's not
Yeah.
a massive biodiversity hotspot, but we have very interesting wildlife as well. And there we've been discussing maybe we could use the Sea Scouts and
Mm.
like youth groups that do different activities on the sea already, and how they could be involved. I haven't like had discussions around schools, but like that's obviously a potential for later, and we could maybe even work with like corporate sponsorship at that point. Like if children go and do science and spot animals, and they obviously probably not in a financial position to make donations, or their parents will be very upset about
Yes,
the
of course.
spring migration of whatever they just spotted. But like maybe we could develop corporate sponsorships
Yes.
for companies that want to compensate they or have a net positive impact on nature, and give credits so that the coastal communities can earn money from the sightings of the children. So we can totally go that way. And like one thing I really love about Ocean Eye is that we can really like tailor it to the location, the occasion, the place that we go to. Like I'm sure we haven't like explored all of the opportunities, and we can use AI, and we can gamify it, and we can do virtual aquariums of species where people get rewards, and like we can do so many things once we
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's a lot of possibilities, and we
yeah
would love to
it's
follow close and support and
yeah
connect you. And my last question would be your like we are a community and we love to encourage female founders to lift others and support others. Do you have any female founder that you would like to acknowledge or thank for their support? Um, that have helped you where you are?
yeah I mean I have many. One is Holly Booth. So she's scientist, and she did a PhD on sharks, and she also runs her own project where she encourages fishermen to let go of the sharks that they catch through
Mm.
payments. So
Yes.
she operates in areas where there's no tourists, but a little bit more remote, and I think that's a really nice kind of parallel idea to what I'm doing, but addressing it in a little bit different way. And it's an inspiration. And then yeah, like my longtime mentor
Yeah.
yeah, Karen Sack, who runs the Ocean Risk and Resilience Action
Yes.
Alliance, and
Mm.
yeah, and they are supporting Ocean Eye at the moment. And yeah, I'm very inspired and thankful for the support. Yeah.
Thank you. We will reach
Yeah.
out to have them or invite them to join
Yeah.
the Wave Makers and
Yeah.
have them in our radar.
Great. Yeah.
Hmm. Is there any other thing that you would like to add before we finish?
Yeah,
Anything?
no, I'm just super excited to be part of this community. I think it's so nice when women take time to
Mm.
connect and lift each other's up. And I think there's so much feminine energy and creativity and approach needed in the world right now. So I'm glad it's getting through.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're so happy to
yeah,
connect with you and have you on board, and we celebrate your work and count with us. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And see you next time with the Wave Makers podcast.
yeah. Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.